what you call.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob,
I say, you can't get much more distance than this. We might need Zoom actually across the room.
Thank you, Paul. Not you, just me.
Is that lunch? Yeah.
No, it's a little odd.
No.
Take a picture.
I love it, right?
Do we have audio, Clifton?
Okay, and up comes my name, and then I hit start video, and down goes my big name, and so, but no video. So, guess what? I'm sure all of you can imagine what I look like. Okay, and up comes my name, and then I hit start video, and down goes my big name, and so, but no video. So.
Yeah, John, I think there's something going on in Blacksburg with the
I'm sure
internet.
all of you can imagine
I know
what
I was
look
having a hard time earlier trying to get.
Okay, and up goes my name, and then I hit start video, and down goes my big name, and so, but no video. So.
Yeah, John, I think there's something going on in Blacksburg with the
I'm sure all
internet.
of you can imagine
I know
what
I was
look
having a hard time earlier trying to get.
Okay,
It's like an endless loop, right?
So, but no video, so.
Yeah, John, I think there's something going on in Blacksburg with the internet.
So this resolution is going to help that, right, Brian?
Yes, it is. Flawless.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
No. The best we can provide.
That is right. Or afford, anyway, either one, right?
Yeah, John, I think there's something going on in Blacksburg with the
Yeah, hopefully they help and pass the, my main concern always with them is that they pass muster with the auditors. That's all I care about. So. And that they help. So.
We'll have that.
Turn their still can't hear anybody. Still can't hear anybody.
There, but not how we're going to do it.
Can't hear anybody.
Sherman has the Wizard Plaza thing.
Can you hear me, John?
Hear you great now.
Okay. Well, good. I'm here working with the staff here, and we got 2 computers on, and one of them, and so we're trying to get that together. But what was your question, John?
No, I was just observing earlier, you sound like the Wizard of Oz.
I think I got my iPhone a little close to my computer, and that's the problem that I was having. But it's good to see you. You doing all right?
I'm doing great, and I hope you are.
Yeah, trying to hang in there, man. We've got a lot of things going on, I tell you that.
Yeah, these are unusual times, my
computer, and
friend.
that's the problem. They really are. They really are. But it's good to see you. You doing all right?
I'm doing great, and I hope you are. Yes, we're waiting on Bob.
Trying to hang in there, man. We've got a lot of things going on.
These are unusual.
The same loop, yeah.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Can they hear us, Brian?
If the commissioners can hear us, we're having some technical difficulties. The audio keeps looping, and we just ask you to please just be patient while we try to figure it out.
council live now to a degree. We're back in council. Those Zoom meetings, they have its place, but it's not. It doesn't. To me, it's better to do them live if you can. So, live.
Okay, I think.
To a degree, we're back in council.
Oh.
Those Zoom meetings, they have its place, but it's not. It doesn't. To me, it's better to do them live if you can. So, live.
Okay, I think.
To a degree, we're back in council. Those Zoom meetings, they have its place.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it loop audio.
It's better to do them live if you can.
Like a bad nightmare.
I keep repeating myself, so something's wrong.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it loop audio.
Yeah, this is gonna be a long meeting.
I like what you were saying though. So it's good. You got to repeat it 3 times.
Yeah, this is gonna be a long meeting.
I like what you were saying though. So it's good. You got to repeat it 3 times.
Yeah, right. Everybody call in, one giant conference call, right?
I like what you were saying though. So it's good. You got to repeat it 3 times. be relevant to the customers, to stay present with the customers, and to continue the conversations about Hilton Event Ready, the interactive playbook. And all of those things were really designed to create experiences that are clean, flexible, safe, and socially responsible. So hoping to have this campaign roll out at the beginning of next week. And it does provide them, like as I mentioned, with an incentive to bring group business back to Visit Virginia Blue Ridge. So hopefully we'll get some play on that. And as soon as these emails are opened, we'll know that they opened them, and that will trigger our sales team to make telephone calls at that point to further the discussion about their meetings. And if it's not for 2021, it gives us an opportunity to look forward to the next few years. So we're excited to get that out, up and rolling.
Yeah, I think, we've got a allocation of up to $30,000 from Visit Virginia's Blue Ridge to assign to this process. We also have in our small grant program with CODA some remaining funding for this fiscal year. So between those two pots of incentive, we expect to have some success when we launch this promotion. Just going along the same vein, Hilton also has some promotion, Hilton double points, Hilton Honors. So again, another way to stay competitive amongst major hotel brands to site meetings and events. So all the major partners here in the project all are working very hard to. When people start to sign contracts, to be in front. And at this time, we have a few capital asset items to discuss. RD?
Hello, board. Thank you for your time. And I'm going to move around with this mic because I can't see the screen very well. I'm either getting older or this social distancing is further. Building fire system, just to give you a fast recap of where we are, all the parts and components were ordered, and they have ordered and shipped, so we'll actually be commencing transferring over and upgrading both facilities, conference center and hotel, starting next week, September 24th, 5th. So that should be about a 4 to 6 weeks project to complete in all. So everything's on target with that. The parking lot equipment and parking lot entrance and exit redesign, which is also a shared project. We advertised that on July 26th, and bids were due on September 10th. We received no bids, and honestly, or in fact, I did not drive that very hard. I was inundated with the Pine Room and a few other management responsibilities with the shifting of social distancing, and so the reality is we got no bids. I'm not sure why, but we're going to re-advertise that on our website and re-engage, and we're going to have that starting how to move forward. That's really all I can say about that. We just did not have a lot of interaction and attention on that bid. And we did put it into the newspaper and website.
Artie, it's Court. Can I ask a question on the parking lot? What is the budget on that?
What's the budget?
Yeah.
Did I bring that? I think. Well, I don't want to tell you what I think. I can't tell you that. I didn't bring the CapEx sheet. It's somewhere combined at 150-ish. Will that answer enough? Or I can always email you later with the exact number.
No, that's fine. I guess, I recognize that this is not operating money, that it's CapEx money, but I'm just wondering how critical these changes and improvements are right now, sort of given, where the conference center and, likewise the hotel finance are, or this is money that should be spent right now, or whether it might be something that can be held off on a little bit. Because frankly, too, contracting prices are as high now as I've seen in 10 years. So anything that comes in, I suspect, will be on the higher end of the budget. So just wondering if that's just thinking that maybe this is something to hold off on a little, or whether you feel strongly to go forward.
Well, I speak for the two boards ago. I forgot how the date. We had this same conversation, and I think the board was pretty strong with moving forward just because it would capture revenue and all of our revenue. Right now, with social distancing and certain amount of cars with our shoulder dates from Tuesday through Thursday, which are low, so they don't man the booth, and we're losing that dollar every time a car leaves. So I think the board was pretty impressed to move forward with this, and if things have changed, the board's all here.
All right, thank you. I mean, I get it. I mean, I get that you're trying to capture revenue wherever you can. I really do. You know, just spreading out how many cars it takes to pay that off, and you know, given what the numbers have looked like and are looking like, I'm just wondering whether it's something we should consider what to do on it. That's all. Thanks.
Anyone else have any thoughts or questions or comments about Court's points?
Court, how confident are you that we will see, okay, the costs, okay, become much more realistic, okay, in the next 8 to 10 months?
I mean, that's obviously a very hard thing to predict, John. What I can tell you is that I have not seen higher construction prices in a decade than I'm seeing right now. And I mean, I can cite projects on the Virginia Tech campus right now that I know are going on where the numbers are, you know, just coming in $1 million over budget on a $10 million project. That's significant. So I can't say whether I feel like it's going to go down, but I'm not sure how much higher the prices can go. Maybe that's a better way of thinking about it from my perspective. Yeah.
RD, did we have any potential bidders pick up bidding packages?
Yes. Actually, it was Lionberger, and they're ready to rebid it, but at that time, they had us and another bigger job that was kind of taken over. Plus, as you know, working through COVID was quite the new issue every day, so to speak. So they didn't want to overextend. So they're very interested if we repost it. And I actually spoke to Barbara and Sam and Kirk last week. So they're ready if we are.
Anyone else, any thoughts?
Is there value in getting some bids?
Yeah, I mean,
And seeing what the pricing is?
Yeah, I mean, part of my thinking is we've got a budget for this item. We know what that is. And, you know, to Court's point, obviously, if a bid comes in and exceeds that budget, then we have a different consideration. Because I think, Court, you're asking really kind of two questions. One is just the timing of the expenditure period. And then the second piece is if the timing results in a higher than anticipated bid, then again, is that even a proper move? I mean, so we've kind of got, you know, two options here. I mean, in the sense of could bid, if it comes over budget, we can still back up at that point, or we can just say this is not the right time to do this. I think I wasn't here, I think the 2 board meetings ago when the discussion came up about the lost revenue that's occurring right now, which will continue to occur going forward without this equipment. So, I mean, for my part, I feel like with the budget in place, going through the bidding piece doesn't cost us anything at this point.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Bob. I agree with you. I guess you're right. It's 2 issues. Part of my thinking is if the budget's 150, I think I think we should expect that the best we'll get is 150 from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And you know that we're not going to come in at 135 and say, wow, we got good competitive bids. I don't think that'll happen. I hope it does. But yeah, secondarily, you know, given the projections on parking, how long is it going to take to, you know, for this 150 to be paid back? And, you know, do people feel like keeping that money in the bank is better given that things likely are going to continue through at least mid to third quarter 2021 as they are, or that's what every projection I'm seeing, just generally from an economic standpoint seems to indicate.
Yeah, and perhaps another way to look at it, Court, too, is I think you might be right that, where we might have gotten a 135 bid, maybe we'll now get a 150 bid. Maybe the other part of that question is, what does it take in that lost revenue to close the difference between what we would normally expect in the bid versus what we're going to experience? And I don't know the answer to that, but that's another factor in that.
Yeah, totally agree.
So, I think at this point, we've got, the items out there, it's ready to rebid. I think that's based off of previous action from the council, I think, from the board. I think the plan would be to go forward unless there's real feeling here about stalling or holding back on this. So, is there anyone that would prefer that we wait, or is everyone comfortable with us proceeding?
I'm comfortable with proceeding.
So am I.
So am I.
All right, well, we will proceed with court's duly noted sort of warning to us that it's probably going to come in right at that top of the bid, if not more. So appreciate the conversation and the update as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Court. Just as a side note, Court, we're, as Hal alluded to earlier, we're trying to stay at the forward edge of revenue, of making a revenue for the conference center in comparative with other conference centers and other markets. So in order to do so, this CARES Act money that Brian alluded to earlier, along with new PPE money, will continue to keep us in front of the game and keep our guests secure. And in doing these projects, obviously always keep us fresh, understanding the balance with money and where we currently are and not knowing the future. So I will be very frugal in the bidding process and bring it to the board for possible approval in the near future. Lastly, and most imperative at this moment, though the dollars are small, as we did the capital budget, or we actually didn't do a capital budget for 2021, and we just said we would do emergency-based items only due to all the things that the court said earlier with losing the revenue or a declining revenue. But we have an area in the kitchen, Regency kitchen, where the drain and the substructure under the drain is rotted away due to just 25 years of water and whatnot being on that drain. I was a little impressed with the other drain. So I called in a structural engineer, met with him this morning actually, to review the other 12 drains so I could make sure that I told the board the factual evidence of what is seen. Optimistically and fortunately, the other drains are good, and the substructure is very tight on all the other drains. This is an isolated area. What you see over to the right is the floor drain with the floor pulled back and the concrete all the way through showing the lower deck. This repair will have to be cut out about 2 to 3 feet. He's going to make a structural plan to go from beam to beam, re-put the pan deck back on, and re-pour the concrete. We're looking, there's also plumbing lines and electrical lines in that area on the top left. Again, it's just a shot so you can kind of see what I'm dealing with. That's about a $25,000 repair. That's an educated guess at this moment. And then the second emergency repair is a production cooler in the Regency kitchen, which is about $8,000. The conference center is responsible for 22% of a 68-22 split, which equates to $5,500 for the floor drain if we move forward, which we really have no other option, and $1,800 on the production cooler. And this is our cooler that we use for Virginia Tech football solely when they're playing football. In addition, I've spoken to Paul Beers, and we can do a small purchase of Procedures Act, post it after it's done, I do think is what Paul said, based on it's an emergency repair, and move forward if the board understands and is in agreement.
Any questions about those two items?
Paul, do we need to take a vote, or is it just under the small?
It's under the small purchase procedures, whether there's emergency or not. That's not a big deal to solicit 3 or 4 bids for this, or is it, RD?
No, I can do 3 or 4 bids. It'll
Well,
just
then-
take a little bit more time, so whatever you want, I can do that
If that's not a
relatively
big
easy.
deal, I would recommend just doing the small purchase procedure rather than having to vote on an emergency and having to defend that.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Mr. Cowell, that completes the operations report.
Thank you very much. And I believe that we've already covered the CARES Act item that was next on the agenda, so that takes us to the conference center budget update.
That was also part of the operations
sorry.
report that we covered.
And that takes us to the Facilities Act presentation. Mr. Mann?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Cowell. The reason we have this as an agenda item for today is working with Larry, Mr. Johnson, and trying to make sure we have enough money in our operating account to pay the bills for the budgeted losses that we're going to have through Q1 and into Q2. We decided that we need to withdraw some money from the coffers so we could increase that account. And in so doing, when we made the request of a $300,000 draw to hopefully get us enough through the end of Q2, hopefully, there began to be some discussion at the city as far as the Facilities Act. And it was possibly mentioned by a person within budget and a person within finance that we might have a potential to use Facilities Act tax rebate money to help fund the operation here at the conference center. So that kind of became the genesis as why we wanted to have Amelia, who is the director of finance with the city, kind of just give, especially for the commissioners who may not even know what the Facilities Act is, since it was passed so many years ago, just to give us a quick 30,000-foot view synopsis of the act, and then also to explain some accounting that was kind of needed to take place of some money that was sitting in receivable accounts that never got actualized actually into the retained earnings or the sales rebate account. So in a minute, we'll ask Amelia to kind of give you the broad overview. And then she'll have to also explain, because we did get clarification from Dan Callahan and the city's attorneys, along with Mr. Beers, as far as the fact that we really can't use that money for anything. To give you just a quick synopsis of it. So I also need kind of Amelia to explain that, that retained earnings account is going to be overstated by the amount of the rebate that exceeds the debt payment for the Facilities Act. So once we get to the end of 2025 and that Facilities Act ends, there's going to be a surplus budget. And we believe, since the city initially funded the debt service payments rather than the conference center to the tune of about close to $12 million for the initial years, with only receiving a fraction of that back through sales tax. So we're assuming that money will go back to the city. So at this time, I'm going to ask Amelia to hopefully make what I just said a lot more understandable, and I'll pass it over to Amelia.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you can hear me well, and we'll, as Brian indicated, attempt to keep this at a 30,000-foot level and not get into debits and credits and cause anyone's head to hurt. You'll recall, most of you, I believe, the General Assembly action back in the 90s that allowed the provision of incentive funds for the development of certain public facilities, such as the conference center that we are fortunate to have in this, made available through the returning of all the sales tax revenue that is generated at the facility to the locality specifically for the payment of the bond financing. In 1994, the city was able to secure about $14 million of 20-year bonds for the purpose of constructing the center. And the primary began in fiscal year 2016, in 1994, to also receive the sales tax after the construction of the conference center. And we utilized the sales tax rebate to cover that debt service. As we've gone forward over many years, the debt has been refunded multiple times, specifically 2003, 2012, and 2013, for the purposes of reducing the debt burden. And also in doing so, it reduced the burden on the city for repaying the debt, but also made provisions for the accumulation of the rebate. On the next slide, you'll see that beginning in 2016, it's the first year that we began to see the sales tax rebate exceed the debt service, leaving that excess available. The funds that we've received since 2016 have been set aside in a special account that is showing about 1.6, 1.7, been doing a review and a consolidation in Fund 10, which is the Hotel Roanoke Conference Center Fund, to have the funding set aside in accounts that are clearly, strictly named for the accumulated rebate. And again, today that amount is 1.6, 1.7 were recognized as receivables that were not in the appropriate place, and they now are residing in that appropriate account for proper tracking. Again, this represents fiscal 2016 to fiscal 2019. On the next slide, you will see the projected amounts for future years. In fiscal 2020, we have not finalized that amount as we are awaiting the conclusion of the audit. However, we do not expect that the $337,030 amount that is on the table shift. For 2025, the estimated amount you see there is approximately $1.9 million, assumes a 1.1% growth rate in the sales tax rebate that we would receive. In total, from fiscal 2016 to 2025, that could potentially be a total of $3.9 million. As was mentioned, we do want to continue our research with our attorneys as to the use of the funding for future discussion, but today we did want to make the commission aware of the current status of the level of funding at the $1.6 million level, plus the $337,000 approximately that will be added at the conclusion of the audit for fiscal 2020. I'll pause at this point.
Thank you, Amelia. Are there any questions for Amelia or others regarding the information she has presented? Okay, hearing none. Amelia, do you have additional information to present?
Only that we will consider our conversations with our attorneys and report back through the commission on any recommendations or guidance that we receive.
Thank you very much.
This is Brian Mann, and I would just add that in communication with the city's attorney and with Mr. Beers, we're going to look to other municipalities to find out if anybody's been in this kind of a rare circumstance, because there was never anticipated to be a surplus at the end of any of this type of business. So we're going to reach out to Lynchburg and some other localities and see if anybody else has run into this situation, and ultimately what their findings were and what the results were. So we will keep the commission informed as far as what we find out.
Hey, Brian, if you don't mind, please include Catherine and Janet in those conversations as you with Paul and the city attorney.
Yes, sir. And this all kind of happened last minute. Surely I would have done that, and I exchanged their contact information with Dan Callahan. You know, the call happened last minute. Otherwise, I would have invited them on the call for sure.
Brian, anything else on that item?
That's it on that.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Bob,
Sure.
is there any action we need to take today on this? Is this just information?
It's just for information's sake at this point, I believe, correct?
Yeah, just information, and so when you see it on the financial statements, you'll see a new column under retained earnings that is for the sales tax rebate, and you'll see that actualized there. So we don't want the commission to look to see that it's overstated, because it's money that we have but we currently don't have, if you will, for the time being.
Okay.
There's also, a possibility that, at the end, when we say the money would be returned to the city, that the city might find it in their best interest to possibly to invest the money back into the conference center, since it would bolster the community. So those will be the types of conversations that we'll need to have with the city moving forward.
Very good,
Great.
thank you. Any other items on that, or any other questions on that item? Very good, thank you. The next two items under the agenda are resolutions regarding procurement. And the first is a resolution for number 363, which is the one reference that authorizes the procurement of new video conferencing equipment. Brian, do you have anything to add on this?
Thank you, Mr. Cowell. I'm going to read the resolution. This is just hopefully accepting of the grant money so we can start the process to procure the new equipment. Whereas
Brian, we don't usually read them we don't need to read them verbatim.
Got it.
Unless you want to, it's not.
Okay, so this is Resolution 364, asking that you approve the $400,000 grant money to set up the RFP and the purchase and the installation of the new video and audio-visual equipment.
And just clarification, it's Resolution 363.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Very good. Is there first, are there any questions regarding the resolution? And if there are not, then I would entertain a motion for its approval.
Moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The second is a resolution 364, and this deals with small purchase procedures. Brian?
Yep, again, Resolution 364, and this is just changing the small Purchase Procurement Act procedures, changing it basically valued at $15,000 or more. It's been amended numerous times, and so we're bringing that before the commission today to amend those small purchasing procedures.
Are there any questions regarding this resolution? And if not, I would entertain a motion for its approval.
Moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much. Next item is other business, and each of you should have a identification of our next meeting. The next scheduled meeting is November 25th, which is, who knows, maybe we'll actually be able to meet in person on November 25th. But
I think at this time, I'm just going to, if it's all right with you all, just going to make the call to go to a Zoom meeting. I don't want to confuse everybody in trying to get everybody back in person. Just one quick housekeeping note, that meeting will be at 12 o'clock compared to 1 o'clock at our normal starting time. It'll be at 12 o'clock.
the other items that are on there include the list of items for the 2021 schedule for the commission beginning in January with that. Brian, any other items on that?
Nope, that's it.
That concludes all of the items on the agenda. Are there any other items or any other questions anyone wants to bring up? All right, if not, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn the commission meeting.
So move. Second.
Thank you, and thank you all, and thank you for joining us and bearing with us for the technical challenges at the beginning, and appreciate that. Appreciate everybody who has set up the equipment so we could be here in person safely as well, and everyone continue to stay well and enjoy the fall. So appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So. Well, for the agenda, because you guys never happened. Yeah. The odds.
6 days later.
This is a negotiated.
Yeah. Security bonds. Hybrid resolution. We also took the budget side, flexible side. Thought that that House bill put revenues associated with.
I mean, that would be the only hang up. If there's something that was explicitly authorized by Assembly recovering it, where they say it's not us that gets it back, it's somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the act, it specifically says only for the time.
Because it's a negotiated bid, we're gonna sit
move
down
up.
and talk to them as a group anyway.
Well, not as a group.
What, no, individually.
You know, it's funny, when I was in Amarillo, we had thanks.
Having a free
Thanks.
bid.
All right, so we can move up.
Yes.
Need to give. Say, we need to go on the website.
Decided
This website tomorrow.
2 days it takes.
And so,
We put it up.
of course, TIP's collecting all of these taxes.
Say it goes up Friday and it's the 20th.
So that we had to go back to the legislature and say, whoa,
October 7 would
what
be
we
the.
wanted to do is simply return it back. That's
Yeah.
the biggest chunk of money is like schools.
7.
Kill
The October 7 meeting, your bid will be.
state gets from, the school district gets from the state, and you're like, well, how much? They didn't want $1 million check.
See.
They're
Not asking for prices.
And so we ended up.
Not asking for prices.
Yes, I could. I'll send you the numbers we have. That's 6.
I gotta sit down and talk to you guys. Look, we're gonna rush schedule. So I'm gonna make those changes. Get them to you.
know what? They'll end up paying for that.